Finland now has the strongest friends and allies in the world. President Putin wanted to slam NATO's door shut. Today, we show the world that he failed, that aggression and intimidation do not work.
History made, as NATO Secretary General marks there. Finland has become the 31st member of NATO. The move doubles the length of Russia's borders with members of the world's biggest security alliance and represents a significant shift in Europe's security landscape against, of course, the backdrop, as you heard there, of Putin's war on Ukraine. Here to help us unpack the significance of all of that, Finland's ambassador to Canada, Roy Eriksson, and Ukraine's ambassador to Canada, Yulia Kovalev. Hello to both of you. Thank you very much for making the time for this. A real pleasure to have you here at the same time. Ambassador Eriksson, I wanted to start with you. I want to just ask you bluntly, do you think today Finland would be a member of NATO if not for Russia's war on Ukraine?
To put bluntly, no. We were very close partners with NATO, but we have had a policy for decades of keeping the door open. We called it the NATO option, but we wanted to make the decision on our own terms and choose the right timing. And possibly we would have joined in a few years' time. But the Russian brutal attack on Ukraine, a sovereign state with internationally recognized borders, that was a shock for the people in Finland. And there grew kind of momentum that it would be now the time to apply to join NATO.
Ambassador Kovalev, what message do you think Finland's accession to NATO sends?
First of all, it's the very strong message that collective security is crucially important in these days. And now with Finland joining NATO and over 1,300 of new kilometers towards the direct border with Russia, it's actually is a good answer on all of this manipulation that Putin and his regime was spreading around the world before invasion and during the invasion, that that this was because Ukraine wants to become a NATO member. And there was a story, I think, 2 years ago when Ukraine was discussing like more security alliance. And for some of our partners, we have been told that there is a good example what Ukraine could follow. This is the example of Finland and so-called Finlandization of Ukraine. And I will tell you bluntly, today when Finland is a NATO member, I would say that the example of Finland with such a speed joining NATO as an alliance is really a good example that Ukraine will also follow and would like to follow.
I think it's interesting, just jumping off that point, that the Secretary General and Secretary Blinken as well kind of seem to say or assess that what's happened today, the coalescing of support for Ukraine, is really the opposite of what Putin intended when he thought what he was doing would further isolate and kind of divide allies. The opposite has really happened. Do you think that's accurate, Ambassador Eriksson?
I think it's a very accurate estimation. I think it was good when my president, President Niinistö, said, Putin, look at the mirror, you caused this. And that was when we were discussing in the parliament on the possibility to joining. And because we had thought that our neighbor would be a neighbor that would honor international agreements. And when we saw that this is not the case, we had to think what lies ahead, and our future is better secured within NATO.
So much of the discussion right now at NATO, and for the last now more than 400 days, Ambassador Kovalev, is around support for Ukraine and what support can be provided. If you were to identify for Canadians and people watching tonight where that support needs to come from and what it needs to be comprised of at this juncture of the war, as you wait for that Russian offensive this spring, what would you say?
My message is direct and clear, and as it was, Ukraine wants to win this war, and Ukraine wants to restore our sovereign borders. And it's not only for the sake of Ukraine, it's for the sake of collective North Atlantic security. And the military support, the speedy delivery of those announced military packages to help our brave men and women on the battlefield who are now fighting. Unfortunately, some of them are also losing their lives, is important, because that is the way how we can restore the sovereign borders, restore the rule-based order, and also we are looking on the Vilnius summit that will happen this summer. And I think it's important to remember the mistake which was taken, strategic, I think, which was taken in Bucharest summit in 2008, when Ukraine has not got any like a direct schedule of when Ukraine could be joining NATO. Because what we see that this collective security alliance is actually the strongest thing that all of us together, the democratic world, has developed in terms of the protection. And we are also much looking forward on the Vilnius summit to have more stronger commitment on Ukraine's being a NATO member.
Let me ask you, Ambassador Eriksson, and I know you're not the one making that decision, but as someone who representing a country that just did join NATO, that question of Ukraine's membership or the potential for it has been fraught. I don't want to say politics, but it's been, you know, a very scrutinized process, a very scrutinized decision because of the perception that it will further instigate Putin or further instigate Russia. What are your feelings about that?
Well, the Finnish position is that we support the open door policy of NATO, and all those countries who want to join and are free to join. Of course, there are some criteria that has to be filled in, but first and foremost, we need to support Ukraine to win this war. That is the first job that we have to do. And then we can move on towards NATO accession also for Ukraine.
And do you think that Ukraine will win this war?
I am positive because there is no other option in my mind.
And Ambassador Kovalev, last word to you on this. On the subject again of the support, how worried is Ukraine? How worried are you? How worried is Ukraine about Russia's further aggression? I mean, Putin today, in Moscow, saying that they're going to further retaliate essentially because of what's happening with Finland. How worried are you about that offensive?
Actually, Vassy, if I recall our discussion a few months ago when the winter was starting, we all were talking whether Ukraine will survive the winter, whether the whole Europe will survive winter. We not only survived, today like there is a spring in Kiev, and we managed to went through the very hard times. Now, in terms of not only like defending the front line, but also making and preparing for counteroffensive, the way how and the speed how we can do it is now on the side of our partners. How speedy, how robust that will be the military support, and how quick it will be delivered to the battlefield, that is now the key. So any of these delays, any of these talks and waging whether to do it, whether now or in 2 weeks, it's something that just postpone the counteroffensive operation from day to day. So I think this understanding that this is the time where we just need to double the efforts to be able this year to move further for liberating the territory. That's important just for us that every capital of our partners need to realize.
Okay, I have to leave it there. I appreciate both of you making the time for this discussion. Thank you so much, Ambassador Eriksson and Ambassador Kovalev.